Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning, and today we've got a highly requested combination to run, and coming into it here, I'm kind of on the fence about it myself. On one hand, I know the track record that these shells have isn't really great, especially in my testing, they've been wildly inconsistent. But on the other hand, I've seen and heard some much better things about them recently, and I've had a number of you guys want to see me test some more of them again. So I've got some brand new ones. We're gonna try them and we're gonna see what we can actually get from them, because maybe they may have fixed some quality issues with them. At least that's the hope anyway. But we'll see what happens as we actually start testing these and how consistent they're going to be. But for the shells I've got today, I brought out some more Winchester Longbeard XR loads, but these ones are the 20 gauge version. They are a 20 gauge, 3-inch, 1¼ ounce payload of lead 5s at about 1,000 feet per second. We have tested the 20 gauge Longbeard 5s and 6s a number of times over the past couple years on the channel, and they've always been horrendously inconsistent. We've seen one or maybe two actual condensed Longbeard looking patterns, and the rest have been complete waterfowl patterns all over the board. But like I just mentioned here recently, I've heard and seen some better things out of these. Maybe they fixed some quality control issues with them. At least that's the hope. This is a brand new box. I literally just got it to my door yesterday, and you can see it is the new box art design as well. So we're going to try them and see what we can get. I've got 5s and I've got the 6s as well that we're going to be testing. And if they're still horrifically inconsistent, we're going to know pretty quick, I'm sure. But for today's setup that we're running them in, I brought out the Stevens 301 20 gauge. It's got a vector red dot up on top with a 26-inch barrel. But we've got two chokes that I want to run side by side today and see what we can get for our starting point. Those being these two. I know it's not the best lighting here, but we've got a Carlson's Longbeard XR 568 constriction choke and a Cabela's Blackmaxx 575 constriction. Obviously, we're running Longbeard XR. I figured we'd have to start with the Longbeard XR choke. That makes the most sense. If there's ever a choke that's going to pattern well with them, it should be this one. But also, we've got this Cabela's Blackmaxx 575. It's been a hammer of a choke. It's a little more open constriction as well than this 568 is. I found lead 20 gauge loads to perform a little better sometimes through a little less constriction, so we'll see how that does. And I have a suspicion that this is just a Carlson's made choke as well, just branded for Cabela's. So we'll see what we can get from these two for our starting point. Two different chokes, a little bit different constriction between them, and if we get good results here, we can definitely go up or down a little in choke and different styles and stuff like that. So these should give us a decent starting point to work with. Before today's test, we're running everything the same as usual. I've got two turkey targets set up side by side at 40 yards and the chrono to get our velocity. So let's get you guys a view of those targets and we'll see what these brand new Longbeard 20 gauge shells can actually do, and if they're still kind of junk or have they actually fixed their issues a little bit. Let's take some shots and see how they actually perform. All right, so let's take a quick look at our velocities. We have a boss claim of 1,000, but these are up in the mid 1100s. That's not entirely surprising. I believe that's what we were getting out of the previous testing we did with them a good while back as well. And mid 1100s is perfectly fine for a lead 5. The Carlson's 568 gave us 1162, and that Cabela's Blackmaxx 575 gave us 1121. So right around mid 1100s or so, I'm perfectly fine for that as a velocity. But did we actually get two capable patterns down there at 40? Let's go check it out and see. All right, so now we're down here at our 40-yard targets, and we see some pretty solid looking results. I'd say just initially looking here, we're off to a way better start than what we were a year or two ago with the previous testing we did with the 20 gauge Longbeards, because both of these are plenty capable 40-yard patterns, and for a 20 gauge lead load, they look pretty nice. We've got the Carlson's 568 on the left and the Cabela's Blackmaxx on the right. Both are very nice patterns, but I think this is going to come down to a little bit of personal preference between these two, because they are similar, but they do have a little bit of difference throughout them as well, and it's going to come down to which one you prefer. But first, we'll start over here on the left with the Carlson's Longbeard XR 568. Obviously, we were favored a touch to the right. We still favored a touch to the right with the Cabela's choke as well. And I literally just checked my zero with some cheap Remington shells and both of these chokes right before I did this test this morning, and they were hammering right on the money. So the Longbeard loads through these two chokes seem to favor a touch to the right. That's why you always test with the setup that you plan to hunt with. Either way though, we still absolutely have a dead turkey here. There are a bunch of them right through the head and neck area there that would have done the job for sure. And obviously, if we had that centered up a little bit better, there would still be a ton right through the head and neck area. Nice condensed area of shot there as well. It might not be overly screaming hot right in the core area, but it's a decently even spread of pellets throughout there as well. So plenty capable enough of a core. Around the edges, it does look like we start to scatter the pellets just a little bit. There's a flyer up there at the top left, maybe another one or two over here off the left, and maybe a few more down there towards the bottom as well. So that is a little bit more on the even side of patterns. I wouldn't hesitate to run that if the shells can consistently do that anyway. We'll see how that trend continues as we do more testing. But that's a perfectly viable, perfectly solid enough 20 gauge lead pattern for 40 yards. That's certainly going to do the job. But now moving over here with our Cabela's Blackmaxx 575 constriction. Similar pattern in some ways, but I think this one is going to have a little hotter core area to it. You see how many pellets we have right on the back end of that bird's head there? I think that's a few more than what we're going to have with the 568 Carlsons. And this choke is less constriction, which kind of leans into what I was thinking earlier, where some 20 gauge lead loads prefer a little less constriction. I think the core is better here, but the edges may not be quite as evenly condensed down as what we saw with that Carlson's either. Not necessarily any major flyers. There's nothing way over here or way down towards the bottom there, but it's just a little bit more scattered as we get outside of our core area. So yeah, this is still absolutely a hammer for a 40 yard 20 gauge lead pattern. That's a pretty nasty looking core there, but it may not be as even throughout the entire spread. So a little bit of back and forth here. Do you prefer a little hotter core, or do you prefer a little more even of an overall pattern? Both are viable options. I wouldn't hesitate to run either one of them as long as the shell is consistent, but there's obviously a little bit of preference here. Which one are you going to take over the other? But let's pull these targets down. I'll circle and count the rest of our pellets, and we'll really see how these two actually performed looking at them side by side. All right, now we've got our turkey targets out of our way, and we actually see two pretty similar patterns, but they do kind of confirm what I thought we were seeing earlier as well. Numbers wise, these two are very similar, but in style, when we actually look at the pattern, there's definitely some differences between these two. Again, we'll start over here with our Carlson's Longbeard XR 568. We have a 10 and 20 inch circle drawn there. It's a nice even pattern across the board. Inside of our 10 inch core, we have 102 pellets, no major voids or anything like that in there. Outside of that, with our 20 inch leeway ring, we pick up an additional 74 pellets, and we definitely have our fair share of little straggly stuff outside of it as well, although nothing too surprising or too major there. Overall, that's just a solid 40 yard capable hunting pattern. It's pretty even throughout most of the spread. Might get a little thinner towards the bottom of that 20 inch ring, but other than that, the coverage of pellets looks pretty good. Nice condensed area of shot right through the core, so nothing to really complain about there. This choke was most likely designed for these shells, and it did pretty well with them, so nothing to really complain about there. For a lead 5 and a 20 gauge at 40 yards, that's going to hammer turkeys, no question about it. If you like a little bit more broad and even pattern, then that's probably going to be the winner for you. However, when we move over to our Cabela's Blackmaxx 575, it's a little less constriction, but we do indeed have a little hotter core area. Inside of our 10 inch circle, we have 107 pellets. That's compared to 102 with the Carlsons, so we only picked up 5 pellets, but we definitely condensed that core area down to a little hotter zone. Numbers wise, very similar. Looks wise, not so much. Outside of that, with our 20 inch leeway ring, we have 63 additional pellets compared to 74 with the Carlsons. So we took a few more pellets and put them in the core area and took away a few from the leeway ring, although we still do have a few scattered pellets around the edges. But honestly, the edges of this pattern might be a little bit cleaner than what we saw with that 568 Carlsons. So if you want a touch hotter core, that might be be the pattern for you, or at least the choke combo for you if you're running these shells. It's a little less constriction, but it might allow that shell to breathe a little more. It's still a decently even spread, and I definitely wouldn't hesitate to run it, that's for sure. So I'm really curious to see what maybe something like a 570 would do. I have a tightwad 570 we can try. Maybe that will give us that little bit hotter core while giving us the little more even spread throughout the rest of the pattern, like we did with the Carlsons here. I don't know. Could be a rather interesting test. But looking at these two side by side once again here, obviously both of them are absolutely going to hammer a turkey at 40 yards. We're off to a really good start here with the new box of Longbeards that I picked up. Those older ones just had quality control issues. There's no other way to put it. I saw them, a ton of other people online saw them, but so far with these two shells, maybe they've figured that out a little bit. Both of these patterns, numbers wise, are very similar, but looks wise, you've got a little more even spread versus a little hotter core. Neither one of them are going to be a bad option, so you'll have to let me know which of these you prefer to have. If it were me, I'd probably still stick with the Carlsons over there on the left. I like hot cores, but I also like a little bit more even of a spread as well, and it's so close numbers wise within that 10-inch ring. It's hard to argue with what that Carlson's did. Although it does seem like maybe with a little less constriction, we might be able to find the right choke to absolutely hammer even better than what these do with these 20 gauge Longbeards. So nice start with these two for sure. No complaints from me on this one. And here are the two wads out of those shells. You've got your Carlson's 568 over here on the left and your Blackmaxx 575 on the right. Very similar here, nothing majorly different about them. Both of them look perfectly fine, so nothing I'm concerned with or worried about on these two. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about this test right here? You guys wanted to see me run some more 20 gauge Longbeard loads, and so far, it seems like they may have fixed some issues with them, at least with these two. We're gonna do more testing with them for sure, so we'll see how consistent they actually remain. And I've got the 6s as well that we're gonna be running, so hopefully they may have worked out some bugs and we actually get a reliable performer here. 20 gauge lead can be a little bit finicky once you get past 30 yards or so, and the Longbeards, since they released, have pretty much been the kings of the lead market, except in 20 gauge, so who knows, maybe we've got something figured out here. Obviously, we're going to run them through a little more choke, a little less choke, a few different styles of choke and stuff like that as well to see what we can get from them. But we're off to two good starts here. We've got a little more even of a spread with a little bit hotter core over here. Either one of these, I wouldn't hesitate to run, but if you were looking at these two for potential options, it pretty much comes down to whichever one you would prefer to have, whether you'd like the little hotter core or want the little more even of a pattern. So leave all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of the Longbeard 20 gauge loadings here recently? And have you found that they're actually a little more reliable or consistent than what the ones were a couple years ago? Are either one of these a pattern or a combination you would hunt with? And if so, which one of these patterns would you prefer? And what other chokes do you want to see us run those shells through that you think might be a good performer? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, you have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.